Greetings folks, I'm Heinz Schaefer, Senior Vice President of Product and Strategy with Volkswagen Group of America. And today, I'm super excited to talk to you about our first all-electric SUV, the new ID.4. Now before I dive into the cool features and content of this car, let's talk a little bit about what the ID.4 is and where it's positioned. Now the ID.4 is a compact SUV. You can see it in terms of the silhouette, you'll experience it in terms of the space. And this car is well priced, it has excellent range, it has the space you expect from a compact SUV, and also very importantly, has that all-wheel drive available option. Now the vehicle is beautifully designed, you'll see our new Volkswagen design language, and very importantly too, this car contains those true Volkswagen driving dynamics. Now the ID.4 starts at a retail price of roughly $39,995, and that's before potential tax incentives of up to $7,500. Now we've also calculated that over a 5-year period, the ID.4 versus a relative ICE compact SUV could save you up to $3,500 in terms of fuel savings. And if you take both of those into account, you'll see that the ID.4 really is targeted at the heart of the compact SUV segment. One last point I think very important to note is that the ID.4 is also equipped standard with our IQ Drive driver assistance suite of features. This model we have here today is the Pro S model, also equipped with the Gradient package, and I'll talk you through some of those details. The price of the Pro S with Gradient package is $45,995, and that's obviously before any available federal tax incentives. And the Pro S and First Edition models do come with an EPA certified range of 250 miles. Let's now then focus our attention a little bit to the side of the car. I have mentioned that this car contains our beautiful new Volkswagen design language, and I can tell you that every effort has been made with the design to try and optimize aerodynamics. As we all know, better aerodynamics results in reduced drag ultimately results in optimized range. And there's no better example of that really than these flush door handles. These door handles are not only flush, they're also illuminated at night, and you'll see that they have a soft touch release catch. Whilst we're on the side of the car, let's talk about a couple other things. You'll see the ID.4 has enormous wheels. The ID.4 comes standard with 19-inch wheels, and the Pro S with the Gradient, you'll see has these upgraded large 20-inch alloy wheels. The Gradient package also contains this black roof. You'll notice some very nice silver roof rails, and that ends here in the C-pillar with the silver blade at the back end, and then is also integrated into the rear spoiler. Now you'll see here on this ID.4, this vehicle does contain our optional projector LED headlights, and these LED headlights are circled over here by an LED light bar. Now this LED light bar also extends into the front grille, and the two light bars culminate in an illuminated Volkswagen logo. Okay, as we transition to the rear, let's talk one more time about these SUV-like proportions and the slightly more upright C-pillar. Not only does that give you slightly better headroom in the second row, but it also gives us a really generous trunk space. And we'll talk a little bit about the really cavernous trunk space of the ID.4. Before we do, let's talk a little bit about the tail lamps. Now we mentioned the LED lighting up front, and that treatment definitely continues in the rear. You'll see stunning LED tail lamps, and you'll see this ID.4 light bar that extends right across the trunk, and it connects these two LED tail lamps. Now one of the cool features about the ID.4 Pro S is it is equipped with KESI, but it's also equipped with an additional feature called Easy Entry. And how this feature effectively works is you arrive at the car, hands are full, you've got the key fob in your pocket, and all you effectively need to do is put your foot underneath the car, step back a little, and the trunk opens for you without using your hands. You then have the ability to obviously pop your goodies into the trunk. So very simple and very easy to use. Now that we got the trunk open, let's talk a little bit about space in the rear. And here you can see with the seats up, the ID.4 has no less than 30.2 cubic feet of space. And when we drop those seats, that extends to a whopping 64.2 cubic feet. Another cool feature here in the rear is this variable loading floor. It does give you the ability to store goodies underneath the floorboard. And if you have an additional large item that you need to carry in the trunk and you need a little bit more trunk space, this variable floorboard also drops to extend the trunk space just a fraction. Now, one of my favorite features before we jump inside about the ID.4 is that this vehicle is super intuitive and very, very easy to use. And there's no better way to display that other than to effectively take the key, put it in my pocket. I'm going to unlock the door with the KESI system. And you'll notice that as soon as I seat myself in the seat over here, the vehicle recognizes that I'm in the car and it immediately awakes and is ready to go. So now all I need to do is put my foot on the brake, twist the gear shift selector, one click forward, and I'm ready to go. So let's then talk a little bit about the interior of the ID.4. And obviously I think the first thing you notice is this beautiful VW designed leather wrapped steering wheel with haptic touch buttons. And these buttons give you great feedback when you touch them. Now, despite the fact that the ID.4 has a really big display over here, Volkswagen firmly believes that all critical information needs to be displayed right in front of the customer to avoid any other distraction. And the little ID cockpit does a great job of giving you all the critical information that you need. The great thing about the ID cockpit too is that it's actually attached to the steering column. So even when you're moving the steering column up or down, the ID cockpit stays in your line of sight and is not interrupted or interfered with by the steering wheel. As we shift our attention just right of that, you'll see that no longer do you have a drive shift selector down at the bottom here. It's right up here at the top, very close to your hand with the steering wheel. And all you really need to do is twist forward for drive, twist backwards for reverse, and ultimately when you come to a standstill and need to park, you basically just hit the park button. Now, one of the coolest features about the ID.4 has to be the ID light, which sits at the top end of the dashboard. And what the ID light really does is it communicates with you, the driver, and interfaces with the vehicle. For example, when you're using the navigation, the ID light might guide you to turn right or ultimately turn left. The ID light also warns you when you have incoming calls. And last but not least, the ID light when your vehicle's on charge also gives you a status bar as to how charged up your vehicle is. Let's then shift our attention a little bit to this very large, intuitive 12-inch screen that you see here, which is standard on the Pro S and first edition models. Now, even in our basic ID.4, this screen is 10 inches in terms of size, so a really large infotainment screen. What's also quite important to understand is that this vehicle, the Pro S, you'll see all these accents are in black, but for our first edition, the steering wheel, ID cockpit, infotainment screen and door inserts over here will actually be offered in white, and we'll also include some very cool play and pause pedals on the pedals down below. You'll notice ambient lights that also extend into the door trim panel, and these have up to 30 different settings in terms of colors. Now, the beauty about a battery electric car is that the vehicle has no tunnel underneath. So it really does free us up to make sure that we can have a center console that's extremely spacious. And up front, you'll see the center console starts with some generous cup holders and good storage space. And these are actually adjustable, so you can take these inserts out, you can reinsert them for different cups of different sizes. As we pull back the tray over here, you'll notice 2 additional cup holders and a very smart little storage space for your cell phone. And this also obviously has wireless inductive charging. Last but not least, for passengers, there are also 2 USB charge points over here. So very simple and easy to use. Now, the Pro S model does come standard with 12-way electric power seats. And you'll see these seats are also wrapped by leatherette. And you'll see the pattern over here has got a very nice perforated hexagon shape. The ID.4 is also equipped standard with some adjustable armrests, which means you and your passenger can ultimately get the perfect setting for a comfortable drive. You'll notice that this ID.4 is equipped with a very spacious, very large glass panoramic roof. And this roof allows in a lot of light on a sunny day. What this roof is also equipped with is an electric power shade. And you'll see over here at the top, there's a very simple glide function where you just swipe your finger like that and ultimately the shade closes. I think that covers the front of the vehicle. Let's jump into the back. And there you have it, 6'4" in terms of height, but a really comfortable place to be here in the second row of the ID.4. And again, because we've got a very upright roof line and we don't have a slanted roof line, it really gives you adequate headroom for even a tall individual here in the back of the car. So this is a 60-40 seat split configuration. Also, again, when you focus your attention on the floor, you'll notice again, no tunnel over here, which means that your third passenger sitting in the middle really has adequate footroom. You'll also notice some air vents, and then obviously for the passengers in the back, 2 USB-C chargers. Last but not least, a very cool little handy feature. You can drop your cell phone in there, so we've got a cell phone pocket holder on the back of the seats. So there you have it, folks, a sneak preview into our all-new electric ID.4, a vehicle that is not only beautiful, but also has real SUV-like proportions, and those proportions obviously transcend into some of that really impressive interior space. The ID.4 is very well loaded in terms of standard content, a vehicle that has impressive range, and also a vehicle that is bundled up with a really competitive price. We thank you very much for your attention throughout this video, and we look forward to getting you behind the wheel of an all-new ID.4.